All right. Hello, 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 everybody. I'm so happy. Listen, I know this is a little bit of a weird kind of show, but I am so happy that you guys came on over to the other side to join Lois and myself. So this is Lois Coffee, and she's my guest today. Thank you so much for joining me, Lois.
I'm excited. It's bright and early here in California, so you're my first appointment of the day, and I love it.
Oh, wow. Cool, cool, cool. What part of California are you in?
San Diego.
Oh, my dad. So um, my dad and my mom and dad got divorced when I was 10. And that's where so we're from Albany, Georgia. That's our home. My mom moved to Jersey and he moved to San Diego. So he spent
Wow.
most of his life in from the time I was 10 until 2006 when he passed away. He was in Vegas when he passed away. He always wanted to live in Vegas, but he lived most of his life in San Diego. And I've been to San Diego twice, and it's beautiful in San Diego. I got to tell you though, I had never seen so many taco stands in my life. I had never. I had never. Matter of fact, I don't think I had ever seen a taco stand outside of Taco Bell. Listen, I'm talking about real tacos, y'all. I ain't talking about Taco Bell. I'm talking about you go to San Diego, you're gonna get real tacos. It's
Oh
a
my
real taco
gosh,
stand.
that's awesome. Thank you for making me laugh because I'm not from here originally, so it's I just love the weather, love the people, and I love the ocean. So
Yeah, the weather was beautiful. It was weird though, Lois, because I went in December. The first time I went, it was Christmas time, and it was like 80. I'm never going to forget that it was 88 degrees. So you got to think, coming from Jersey, where it's like probably below zero, to 88 was like a weather shock. And I was like, oh my God,
Mhm.
it's 88 degrees here in California. That was weird. That was the first time I ever spent time away from my mom, which was kind of that was another shocker because like okay, I've never been away from mom, and I was 19. I was eight. My brother was 18. I was 19, and that was the first time we had spent any time away from my mom. But it was cool. We got a chance to see how my dad lived, so that was cool. But anyway, thank you so much for getting up so early to join me on the Good Morning Gwinnett show. And I know you guys were saying, okay, what happened? Well, what happened was I'm in between sets. Let me just say that. That's where I am. So without further ado, let's bring Lois. So Lois, you are an act. Listen, you are what is a triathlete? Is that what it is?
I put that on my profile or my speaker's bio because once a triathlete, always a triathlete. I've done two full Ironman triathlons, and to be honest, those were in my 20s. I am in my 40s now, but I still have the tattoos to prove it, and I still have the memory of crossing the finish line and the training, and it applies to what I do today. Because consistent habits and the mindset that I needed to, and the team and the support, the coaches, all of it. No one succeeds alone, right? And so it really set the stage for my sales career, having had all of that in my 20s and then my 30s and then 40s. There's so many parallels to it. So I like to share that with people, even though I'm a mom now. And I say, it was easier to do an Ironman triathlon than to give birth and be a mother. So we'll just leave it at that.
So listen, for people don't know what who don't know what Iron Man is, what is an Iron Man? Because I know what it is, but some people may be watching going, what is that?
Oh yeah, a good point. So it's 140.6 of miles of competition. It starts with a 2.4 mile swim. Obviously, we're usually starting at 7 in the morning, dark 30. So after you do the 2.4 mile swim, you transition to the bike and do a 112 mile bike ride. After that, you're still not done. You got to do this little thing called a 26.2 foot marathon. Like you're either running, walking, crawling, whatever you're able to do still at that moment. And I was a marathoner first. I started running in my 20s. I was a college athlete, all that fun stuff. So I had a base. And so after marathons, I started doing 100-mile century bike rides for charity and stuff. And then I saw these people doing these things called triathlons. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to add swimming to the mix. And of course, I like challenges. I like testing the limits of my mind, my body, my spirit. And an Ironman will test all of those.
I can tell you. So just the fact that, well, I couldn't make it past the first quarter mile, so I'm not going to even. I wouldn't make it past. Listen, I did a 5 mile walk one time. I thought I was going to die, which is crazy now because now I know that's me doing 10,000 steps a day or something. But before, I was much heavier, so I lost a bunch of weight, and I did that 5 mile walk much heavier with the baby. So my daughter probably was about 2 or 3 at the time, so I was much heavier with the baby doing a 5 mile walk. I did it though. I did it, y'all. I was so happy when I did it. It was me and one of my friends. She had her son. I had my daughter, so we did it. But now, I try to do the 10,000 steps a day, and I think that comes out roughly to 5 miles or something. So it's a bit different. But I know for a fact that if I had to swim, run, walk, bike, oh, forget about it. Just send an ambulance for me, y'all. That's all. Just send an ambulance.
Aw.
Today I bowled, right? I bowled in the league. I bowled today. And so by the time I'm done at night, because we finish around about 9:30 every night. By the time I'm done, I bowl in the league. By the time I'm done, all I want to do is just pass completely out because I've had a full day, and then I go and bowl for 3 or 4 hours, and then by the time I get home, I'm done. So put a stick in me and call it quits. But thank you so much. So I know that you've been able to do some amazing things during this pandemic, and one of the things that I saw that you were able to do, which I'm sure a lot of people are interested in finding out how, you said I went from 0 to 5-figure months in only 6 months. Listen, some people have been trying to get the 5-figure months for 15 years and they still haven't figured that out. So I'm sure that people want to know how. Not only did you did it during a pandemic. How did you do that? Well, let's back up a second. Give us a little background about where you came from, how you became to how did you start your entrepreneur journey? Where did that start?
Yeah, sure. I like most entrepreneurs, I found out I wasn't a good employee in my early 20s. I had a dream of working for ESPN. I wanted to be like Robin Roberts, and I loved, Stewart and all the guys on ESPN. I was an athlete. And so once I got into the industry, though, officially, I don't know how I missed it in college in my internship. It was pretty unhealthy, pretty toxic, pretty sexist, actually. As a woman in the sports department, they told me I was going to have to sleep my way to the top to get into ESPN. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, maybe I need to change my career or something here. And I tried working for newspapers, but they were all desk jobs. Even the TV station, I had to work nights, weekends, and then they wanted me to do graveyard shift. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I was a marathoner already at that time. And I'm like, I like sleep. I think I don't like sitting behind a cubicle and a computer all day. So I landed in real estate, and the rest, as they say, is history. It could be a really long story. I succeeded massively. I got to multiple 6 figures. I found that I loved sales. Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, all of those guys were my favorites to listen to. And I thought, oh, I want to be like Zig and Jim when I grow up and be a sales trainer, speaker, motivational, all of that kind of stuff. And sure enough, when the recession hit in real estate, I had 3 companies, 3 real estate related companies. And I crashed and burned. I was essentially homeless. By definition, I was homeless. I was sleeping on floors, futons, guest bedrooms of friends who, took me in, kind of a thing. And I had foreclosures, filed bankruptcy. I went through a lot of trauma. I went through a lot of limiting beliefs. I had never failed at such a high level before, and I was really, really scared. And at that time, I had to start over, and I had a dream to become what I'm doing today. So there's a moral to the story and why I'm going so deep into it. But I was so scared, and I had one coach who believed in me, and he said, Lois, start an email list, start doing speaking. You have a book. I wrote a book at the time, just go for it. You can do it. You have greatness inside of you. But I didn't listen to him. I listened to all these other negative Nellies and Nancy's over here, friends, family, other previous coaches in real estate who said, Lois, who's going to listen to you? You just lost everything. And even though I had lots of evidence that they were talking a bunch of crap, my mindset said, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I should just, quietly stuff my dream down and go get a job or this, that, or the other thing. In the meantime, I actually met and fell in love with my husband. We started a family, and I pushed aside my dream. I didn't build an email list. I didn't do any of the things. Well, guess what? history repeated itself with the pandemic. I went on to be successful in health and fitness. I pursued that as a career after the Great Recession of 2007, 2008. It was easy to
Mm-hmm.
work part-time and make a good income, or actually a great income for being a stay-at-home mom and doing all the things. But I could feel inside something wasn't fully fulfilled because I had pushed away my truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, when just as the pandemic was about to start, I got a coaching certification. I was poised to get a website. I didn't have a podcast. I still didn't have that email list, Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
And then, boom, pandemic hit. And I was having deja vu because it felt a lot like, when I was homeless, had my car repossessed, all the things. I was stuck at home trying to figure out how to work from home and sell virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And add on another 13 years later, I was only a face-to-face belly-to-belly salesperson ever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ever. I went to work right away because I knew all my friends who had listened and done the email list thing and built digital offers and doing all the things. They were still making tons of money. The pandemic didn't slow them down.
Mm-hmm.
So I hired a coach. I decided I'm going to go for it. And keep in mind, just to give you context, because some people were like, well, she's done Ironman triathlons. It's so probably easy for her.
Right.
No, I mean, I was terrified. My limiting beliefs were still firing. My mom and my brother died back to back
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah.
And I had just moved to California, so I didn't have a network locally. I had to start all over there too. And I was trying to homeschool my 7 and 11-year-old.
Wow.
So I did fall back on my certification. I coach on the 12-week year, which is about getting way more done with focused mindset in less time, less is more
Mm-hmm.
approach, which I
Mm-hmm.
really resonated with because I didn't have a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I really only worked 2 to 3 hours a day of focused lead generation in that first 3 months. I built my email list from 0 to 2,000. I started doing weekly webinars. I started doing weekly Facebook Lives, all the stuff that I hated too, by the way, before the pandemic. I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not for me. So I had to do a 180, completely reprogram this, but I had learned from my past experiences. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get to 4 figures a month by month 4, and then hit and stay at 5 figures by month 6. And then guess what? All I had to do was raise my prices. And I actually went to multiple 5 figures. It was about 4 or 5 months later after that first 5-figure month. So it was one foot in front of the other, just like swimming, biking, and running in a triathlon. Really, like
Mm-hmm.
I had to be present with what I was doing, not shiny object syndrome. I didn't have time for that. And that's where I see a lot of coaches, speakers, authors, podcasters, healers. Those are my tribe. They really struggle with that laser beam focus. And I think, you have a family, being a mom, and all of the things that I've learned. You got to be present. You got to be in the here and now and passionate. And when you speak your truth, that was the final thing I wanted to share. I finally let go of the past negative Nellies and Nancy's and demons, truly, the monkey on, that shoulder, or devil, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's my time. And I declared it. And I truly believe, that's why all of those things that brought me to that full on experience.
So let me ask you this. I want to go back a second. So you said that you had some you managed to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and start over again, and that's how you got really into the sales side of it. Well, you started again in health and fitness. What was that? What was that job? Was it a job? Was it a business in health and fitness?
That's a funny story. So I was still a little scared. So I got a job offer and I took it. And guess what? 7 months later, I was fired.
Wow.
Because again, I was like, ooh, what if we did this? This is a really good idea. This could help us help our clients more.
Uh-oh. She's stuck.
Can you see me still?
Okay, yeah, you're going. You're good now.
Am I here still?
You're here. You're here.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Okay.
You're here.
So anyway, so I got fired. And then that's when I'm like, okay, fine. This is just another sign. I went off on my own and I did really well. I got to 4 to 5 figures a month doing boot camps and fitness and nutritional products and all of the things.
So we got a question we got a question already. Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Georgette. So Georgette wants to know, what were you offering your email list?
Great question. Great question. So for the first 3 months, all I offered, it's very simple. I didn't even have an email campaign at this time. I didn't have a copywriter or nothing. So I just gave nurturing value. I gave nurturing value twice a week. Okay. So take notes on this. And now I teach my clients 3 times a week is the best. But at that time I didn't know much. So I just did my webinar invitation, which was my 5 secrets to selling success. I did that 12 weeks straight. So every week people got an invite. And that's how I invited people to my email list. I said, hey, I am a sales coach. I have great tips for free. Would you like to be on my email list? Boom. Sure. That sounds great. I could always learn how to sell better. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so one was an invitation with maybe like a little bit of inspiration inside of it. And the other one was my Facebook Live. I repurposed it. And I was interviewing, just like you here, I was interviewing health experts, wealth experts, and other coaches and people with some kind of wisdom. My podcast is called Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, which you'll be on next week. I'm so excited. You'll be my first guest kicking off February.
Yes, it's my birthday month too, by the way, y'all.
I know it's also Black History Month. I mean, it's really kind of exciting. So all these beautiful
and
things.
I will be launching my NFT for Black History Month. So that's exciting too.
Awesome. So again, value and invitations, and that was it. Again, no copywriter helped. I just did it. And here's one little fun thing. And then if there's another question, I'm happy to answer. Because I nurtured and had pure just invitations and free content for that first 12 weeks, month 4, I did a webinar. A different webinar than the first 12 that I was doing every single week. And guess what? I actually did a joint venture webinar with someone. She had an email list. I had an email list. We ended up having 100 people sign up for that webinar.
Was it free?
Yep. But we had an offer at the end. And guess what? I made almost $4,000 from that day, that one webinar. And it was good too, because I launched my podcast that month. I didn't do a whole lot of other stuff, guys. I was like strapped, again, juggling all the things with the family, life, death, all of the things. And just that one webinar gave me so much excitement and passion. I was like, I want to do that again. So the next month I did it again. And then the next month is when I hit my first 5-figure month. And to be honest, that's the month that I raised my prices, because I was only at like offering $397 coaching packages, which was way too low, but I didn't know any better. Again, I'm just maybe a few months ahead of a lot of y'all, because I was just literally just failing forward, and then I raised my prices to $997 that September of 2020. And that's when I hit my first 10K month. And it was just a great way that it unfolded. But again, it was all about consistency. I emailed my list every week. I built my list every week, and I created value and desire and a tribe. And there were a lot of people that unsubscribed because I didn't know at that time who was my target market. It took me about 6 to 9 months to really decide that I wanted to work with coaches, speakers, healers, podcasters. But that was perfect, because I don't want to have people on my email list anyway that don't want to be there. So it was a lot of just amazing awesomeness.
So it was so funny. Before I started the show this morning, I sit on 5 boards. That's a lot. I sit on 5 boards, and so I was on a call with one of the board with the president of one of the organizations, and he was saying, we were talking about the newsletter. We have the organization has a beautiful newsletter that goes out once a week, which is beautiful. And I said to him, we got to make sure that person stays happy, because I struggle trying to get my own newsletter out. So did I hear you correctly when you said you sent out a newsletter 3 times a week?
Well, it wasn't a newsletter. So okay. I want to clarify that, because I think newsletters are fine. I really do. And I think if you want to do newsletters, I definitely can't help you with that, because that's not my area of expertise. Okay. I like to, and I signed up for a lot of different people's email lists. By the way, in fact, if you guys receive my free offer today, you'll kind of see what I do. But the whole idea was to keep it simple and keep them shorter,
Mm-hmm.
sweeter, and very basic. I've thought now, this is almost 2 years later, because it was April of 2020 when I finally, saw the light and said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build an email list, and I'm just going to go for it. And so I've thought about doing a newsletter, and my VAs can help me with that. But I like the consistency of 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the best email campaign marketers, they've shown me that if you have an email list that loves you and that loves seeing your name, even if they don't open it, newsletters just aren't consistent or often enough. But I think if that's what you feel in your gut you need to pursue, go for it.
So you don't do a newsletter, you do what? So what when you send out this mailing 3 times a week, what's in it? Like is the webinar, it's a tip or something? What's in it the 3 times a week?
Yes. Now, to be totally transparent with you, I'm really, really refocusing on that this year. I got a little bit too invitation heavy in
Mm-hmm.
2021,
Mm-hmm.
where I was inviting people to summits that I'm on, podcasts that I'm on, just different invitations. So now I'm going back to what I teach, which is EIE, education, inspiration, or in information, whatever you want to call it. And then the other E is engagement. So
Mm.
EIE, just keeping them short, simple. I have a blog post that I'll send that can either be educational or inspirational. Gets me
Mm-hmm.
back into my writing as well. And then, of course, the engagement is asking questions. Sometimes it's entertainment, maybe a YouTube video. But then the other I, it's EIEIO, is what I coach on inside of my program, and the second I is invitation. So like I'll invite people. Sorry, I'm having a problem with my my earbuds this morning. They're not awake yet. Then I'll invite them to my webinars. But I'm getting back into more of that nurturing. So tips, quotes, videos, and of course I have my podcast episodes. So those go out every week as kind of a combo between education and inspiration.
You mentioned webinar a lot, and I wanted to because part of me thought webinars are kind of like dead, but apparently they're still very very strong and helpful. So, um, do you find that webinars still convert pretty good? In because there's so much information out there right now, Lois. There's so many producers of information out there, and I just kind of felt like, well, maybe it's like overload. People don't want webinars anymore. Are they still a pretty powerful tool or technique to build your list?
Yes, I, on average, and this is inside of what I teach for people who want to do webinars, because it's not for everyone,
Hmm.
and you don't have to do them. I just feel like here, right now, you and I, you can hear the passion or the excitement or the fun, whatever, in our voice. You can feel more energy when there's video and audio. And then people can ask questions, right? So they feel like they're a part of your experience, whether it's a live podcast like this or a webinar. And I feel like that's an amazing one to many approach,
Hmm.
that even though I will tell you what I've seen, I can still get um, 100 to 400 people to sign up a month for my webinars. And
Wow.
I usually aim to do 2 a month now, because one a week was fine when I was starting out, but now it's too much because I have clients to serve and all of the things, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So by doing that and using my systems to do that is great in building the list. However, I will say that the show up rate, I used to be able to get, believe it or not, at the beginning of the pandemic, 30 to 50% of the registrants would show up.
Hmm.
Now it's 20% to show up. So it's definitely not as great as far as show up rate. And then we'll talk about conversions because you talked about that.
Hmm.
But by being able to get them into my list, that's numero uno. They can always get the recording, and then I can always repurpose that content in my YouTube channel so people can find it forever, right? So at the end of the day, the conversions on the back end have still been really great, even though the numbers have gone down,
Mm-hmm.
because oftentimes, depending on, most of the time I'm just offering, hey, book a call with me, book a call with me at the end, instead of sending them to, an offer with the price tag. Book a
Mm-hmm.
call. And then after that, I can get a bunch of strategy calls booked, and then new clients come from that.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. Now, let me ask you this because I'm listening to you about the email list, and it's so funny because I tell this story all the time. I started an email list when it wasn't a big deal, and I remember I could kick myself like later, but I started email list probably about, oh my God, it had to be the early 2000s, probably 2005 when I dissolved my first company. Had this great email list of 3,500 people, maybe a little bit more, right?
Wow.
And I would do a newsletter weekly. And I nobody said a word, Lois, about the newsletter. I was using constant contact, putting this newsletter out, and nobody said anything. And I was like, nobody's reading this thing because it wasn't email marketing back then. It was just like I'm doing a newsletter. And I think back then, oh God, what's her name? Her name is Alexandra. Her company is called it was called the Easy and Queen. And so I was following her because she was doing newsletters for companies in New York. And I was like, I'm gonna follow her because she's doing some great things. And but nobody was reading in the newsletter. So I was like, I'm not doing this. And I stopped doing it. Once I stopped doing it, then people goes, what happened to the newsletter? But by that time I had deleted the whole list. It was gone. So now, I had to start from scratch my newsletter. What I've learned is that you don't want everybody on your newsletter. And I scrub my
Mhm.
newsletter constantly because if you have not opened up an email in the last 6 months, that means you're not interested in what I'm doing. My question
Mhm.
to you is, you talked a lot about your webinars and your email newsletters and getting people on that list. How are you getting people on that list? Are you sending out your link to LinkedIn somewhere to sign up for the webinars, and then you get them on the list? That how are you getting people on your list?
Yeah. So I still have a system in place that's mostly because I started with that, and it worked. So I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
Right.
keep in mind, I said I do 2 webinars a month, and my goal is to minimum 100. Like, I have a webinar in just over an hour from now,
Okay.
and I have only been marketing it for about 2 weeks. And with a system that I teach, I have over 80 people registered
Wow.
in 2 weeks. Now we'll see how many show up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have another one the following week. It's a high sales performance masterclass. I fully expect that to also be 80 to 100 or more, actually. So that's the number one way to get them in. Number two, you guys are going to see here shortly. I do have it's called a lead magnet. I'm not going to, no surprise here. I have a link, and you have the link as well,
Mm-hmm.
for my 4 secrets, or proven steps, my Kofi sales formula framework that I teach my clients. And then I do every day, 4 things every day that have
Mm-hmm.
brought me success in where I'm at. And so people sign up for that. They get into my email campaign. And then my last one is my podcast. So I do have a landing page just for my podcast, and people can opt in just to receive updates about my podcast. If that's all they want, that's what they're going to get. So those are my 3 key things. Again, in summary: webinars, my lead magnet. So when I'm on podcasts or other speaking engagements or summits, I can always give that lead magnet out, and that's when people opt in. And then, of course, my podcast. So with those 3 things, and keep in mind, I would focus on one first. Once you get that mastered, usually 12 weeks or 16 weeks, then you can add another one, another 12 weeks, 16 weeks, then you can add another one. And maybe because I'm a triathlete, I like 3.
Mm-hmm.
but with that, it's my goal to generate 400 new leads a month.
Wow. That's
So
pretty.
keep in mind, I didn't start there. I mean, I did it the old fashioned way, which I just asked people, hey, would you mind if I add you to my email list? You're going to receive tips, tricks, free stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I still was able to get, about 100 people a week back then, but I was grinding and doing more, and it was a labor of love, like you mentioned earlier. And now it's more intentional, it's more structured, and I have virtual assistants who actually help me do probably about 80% of that now. I don't touch a lot of that. It's mostly my team.
Nice, nice, nice. So I have a question, another question from Georgette, and I'll pop it up on the screen, which is a good question. Says, how did she get rid of the shiny object syndrome?
Well, truth be told, I can still suffer from it, okay? Because I homeschool my kids still, okay? And it's not easy. I have a lot of tips and tricks. One of them, you can't read it, and it's personal, but this is sitting right next to me. It's actually my 12-week year goals, my future goals. So I'm living in decades. I'm going out to 2030, and then also where I've come. And I can just quickly glance at this. The other thing is I do time block like a ninja. I time block like a ninja. And like I was saying, when I was swimming, I was swimming. I wasn't biking at the same time. When I was biking, I was biking. When I was running, I was running. So I do fall back on my athletic mindset and that kind of science of just peak performance, staying all in. And when your intentions are clear, your boundaries will appear. It's easier to have boundaries and learn how to say no. And thanks for playing. Appreciate your offer, because I get hit up all the time. People want me to sign up for their MLM. They want me to invest in crypto. They want me to do this. They want me to do that. And I have some gatekeepers in place too. Like I have people checking my email, but before then, I just like the blinders were on. If it wasn't on my piece of paper, if it wasn't on my time blocked schedule, guess what? I wasn't doing it. I also had to take apps like Facebook and Instagram and all the things off my phone because let's be honest, it's easy to get, ooh, look at that video. And then 5 hours later. And so it just came with, of course, last but not least, accountability with my coach. I couldn't have done it without having a coach there reminding me, about my purpose, my vision, and then, my why, having that driving me every day helped me have much less of the shiny object syndrome, but I'm still human. I can still have that stuff happen from time to time. And it's all part of the journey.
Let me ask you this, because this is something that happened to me this week. So when I envision what Good Morning Gwinnett looks like, right? I had this big picture of what it looks like. It's a media company. I have a good time. I play music. I do horoscope, but I educate people. So I kind of do your EIE, right? Engagement, education, all that. But that's just who I am. I've never heard of the formula till you said it, but that's in my mind when I went to create the company that I would just love to get up every morning and go to work to. That's what I saw. And so, but then there are times when I want to add something to the company, and I add something to the company because I looked at somebody else's company and said, oh, maybe I should do that, which I did a lot of that, right? And just this week, Lois, it was the weirdest thing. I asked myself, Audrey, what is it that about your company that you love, and what is it that you really don't love? Right? Like, what is it that make you really excited about the podcast and what you're doing? What makes you not so excited? And there were 2 sections on my podcast on my website that required me to put a lot of time into that I put no time into, to the point where it made me paralyzed, and then nothing got done, to the point where I didn't even want to look at the website and was like, okay, I need to write something in this space, and I haven't written anything since May of last year. I had a good realization to myself to say, okay, well, just remove that. Just take that off. 2 things I took off. I just take it off. When I tell you I took it off and slept like a baby, I slept like a baby because I was like, okay, I no longer have to even think about that. But my question to you is, has that ever happened to you? Because it's almost like giving your baby up for adoption, right? You put it in, it was supposed to be a major part, and then you didn't want it anymore. And it's like, I don't want this anymore. Or you selling part of your company. Has it ever happened to you? How did you handle that?
I don't think it's really happened to me. I've been pretty focused and also only setting certain goals at a certain time for per quarter. I think my only challenge or struggle has been when I was trying to do things too soon. Like when I would joint venture with someone before maybe I had made my product or my service really rock solid. And
Mm-hmm.
then that would be my biggest issue with shiny object syndrome, because I love teams and I like to partner with people, and I would partner too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything just fell apart. And I did feel like I was giving some of me away as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only, I hope that makes sense. I don't know if that
It
makes
does.
sense.
It does, because what I heard you say was, because my mechanism for that was, I looked at other media sites and I'm like, okay, I need to have 5 different segments. I have the lifestyle, I need to have business, I need to have money, all these things. And then when I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, now I have to create content for all these different sections that I really don't care about. And so I had to cut that and say, I don't care about any of these sections. I care about business. So that would never go away. I care about the podcast that I produce. So I cut every section that I really didn't care about. Not that I didn't care about it, but I didn't see myself serving at the level that I needed to serve. So I got rid of those sections on my website. And then I felt so much better. I was like, oh, that feels good. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to be real, like go back and look, because what I find, Lois, is that when I'm doing things that I'm not genuinely passionate about, like I don't do them well, or I don't do them at all. And
Yeah. Oh,
people will come to you, people will come to you and say, hey, I need that service. And then you like, oh my God, I really don't want to do that. But you put it out there that you do that thing.
yeah. No, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It is one of those things where, and I will be transparent with you guys in 2021 at the end of the year, because I was trying to fit in other people's boxes with what they wanted from me.
Mm-hmm.
I started to feel incongruent and out of alignment. And guess what? And it was actually a good thing. I allowed my income to go down, because I started recognizing that I had taken on clients who I really shouldn't have taken on. And it was a big
Yep.
distraction for me, along with
Yep.
JV partners that were a
Mm-hmm.
big distraction. Because again, I was trying to fit in their box,
Yep.
thinking, oh, they're successful, all of the things. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I can do this on my own. I'm on my own and okay. So coming back to center. So I had, again, great amount of success. Maybe that's where, I had that shiny object syndrome, like you're talking about. And then now I'm just like, listen to your gut, trust your intuition. And again, if you have fewer goals, and these guys, tunnel vision, you're going to be doing so much better, and not comparing yourself to other people, because then that's when it's like it can be game over.
It's something you said about a client. So I had a client last year, and I'm truly blessed to have gotten this. It was a big contract with a big prestigious client who was very nice, and I will love her forever for giving me that contract. But the more I worked with them, the more I realized I wasn't serving them, because the things that I had pitched for the contract and what I got the contract for were not the things that I was doing. And the more I would work with them, the less happy I became. And I'm like, oh my God, this is stressing me out to the point where I was like, oh my God, I hated to show up, because I couldn't do the thing that I was good at, which was this, right? I was doing other stuff. And the contract was so lucrative, I didn't want to let it go. But it became so much, Lois, that I had to let it go. I was like, okay, I can't do this. And so she kind of gave me an ultimatum, like, well, or you either this or that. And I was like, I'm gonna choose that. And I walked away from the contract. And when I tell you, again, I slept great, and I thanked her, because it was a wonderful opportunity. It was a wonderful one, and I got that contract because she was a guest on my show a few years prior.
Okay.
And because of that, when I was able to pitch her on what I did, she's like, great, come on. But when I got there, it was other things that they really needed, and I couldn't deliver. And I felt like, this is stressing me out, because I'm trying to learn something. I'm trying to learn how to use terminology that I don't know how to use, because I've never done
Mm,
it. It was legal speak.
mm,
I don't know how to do legal speak. It was a legal contract with a legal it was a contract with the DA department here in Gwinnett County, the district
okay.
attorney. And she's an amazing person, and it was an amazing opportunity, but it started to stress me out. And I was like, oh my
Mm,
God, I don't want to give up the money, but I am miserable right now, and I'm not serving her as a client. And I sent her a nice email saying, listen, I really thank you for this opportunity, but I'm not serving you. Now if you need me to come back and produce a podcast, I, I'm your girl. But for what I am right now, I'm not. And so sometimes you have to let some things go. And I was okay with that.
Yeah, they is it John Maxwell? I think he said you got to give up to go up. And
Oh, that's nice.
that's a maybe a good point to end on if I were to summarize, sometimes you got to give up the shiny object syndrome or give up, we all have all these goals and dreams, right? And if you were to list them all out, you can't do them all at once. It just,
Yeah.
it's not human. And I teach work life balance. I do believe in it. I know some coaches will say, no, 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 no. And I'm like, yeah, like my intention
Mhm.
is to work only 16 hours a week by the end of this year. I'm not there yet. Be able to travel more, take 12 weeks off this year, and you can work smart. It just takes time and one 12-week year after another. And then, of course, I've made mistakes too that kind of, I had to take a few steps back and go, oh, so that's why my coach told me not to do that. We learn through experience and then you come full circle and then you learn from it and you apply what you learned. Anything is possible, but you do have to give up to go up and not be trying to spread yourself too thin or do too many things all at once.
Even when the money is good, sometimes you have to give up to go because sometimes the money is really good and you want to actually, do that thing, but you don't want to not serve your client because that could follow you everywhere you go. And so if you're trying to do the best thing possible, you can do that thing, but and be authentic with it. So listen, I know you got to run because I know you got a webinar to do, but I want to thank you so much. I'm dropping a link, y'all. So if you want to find out more about her framework is here in the link. Check it out. Um, I posted it earlier, but it's there. You want to check it out because and I've gone to her website. She has amazing programs. And one thing that I know, if you're not selling, you're not in business. I'm just gonna say it again. If you're not selling, you aren't in business. You have a hobby because business means you're selling something. You're giving some value for money exchange, whatever, whether it be crypto or whatever. The U.S. dollar, the yen, whatever, the Canadian, whatever. If you're not selling anything, you're not an entrepreneur. You're not in business. So, Lois, I thank you so much. How can people, other than clicking on the link, how can they reach out to you if they want to set up one of those free calls?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I actually you'll see that in the link, but if they go to bookacallwithlois.com, www.bookacallwithlois, I try to make it easy.
I like that.
They can there's like an intake form. So I have a diagnostic of where you have been and where you want to go, and we're really maximizing our time on the call. Then you book a call from there. That's perfect. Yes. They can also go find me and see you on my show next week if they join my Healthy and Wealthy and Wise Facebook community, which I know you're going to be sending out. You have the link
Yes.
for that as well.
Yes.
And that's a great community for like-minded people. I do live stream my show on there, both my guests and my monologues, and I do a little bit of free coaching in there. I have a couple other Facebook groups though that are more sales specific. So if you just find my website, loiscoffey.com, and play around, you should be able to reach out to me also on social media as well.
Okay, so now I just cringed when you said that, right? You said Lois Kofi, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh my God, I've been saying it wrong the whole time." And now when you said that, I just cringed, like because I automatically assumed just
No, no, no. You're perfect. I love it because one of my streams of income that I still get paid for is from a coffee company that I used to sell for, and I'm a bit of a coffeeaholic. And so when someone says Lois Coffee, it actually it's like music to my ears. It is Lois Coffee though, so you're fine. And how many times have I done that as a host with my guests? So grace and compassion, nothing but love for you, sister.
thank you, ma'am, because I'm saying to myself, and I normally would say, I would even ask, "Hey, well, how do you pronounce your name?" But I just assume because I'm like, okay, it's coffee. Like and then I saw the cup in the picture because on the show I got the cup with you in the picture, so I'm just assuming that okay, she's saying it's coffee, and I just so wrong as don't assume is what I'm saying. Don't assume, just ask the question. That's all I'm saying. Well, thank you again so much for being here. I really appreciate your time, and I know that I hope I can be as great a guest on your show next week as you were for mine. I'm gonna bring my A game like I always do, though. I always try to bring my A game, Lois. I always try to bring my A game. So I'm gonna bring my A game, and thank you again for just sharing this wonderful information with my audience, because I know that there are a lot of people who are trying to figure out, should I start a newsletter, should I not, should I do a webinar, should I not, should I do a JV, should I not? It's just a lot, and so I want to. Georgette said thank you. I'm gonna pop her thing up there because she's been watching us the entire time, and that's pretty cool.
Oh,
Um,
wonderful. Thanks, Georgette.
yeah, she's been watching us a lot of times. So just for the record, y'all, I didn't tell Georgette to watch. She's one of my good friends and business partners, and so she probably saw it somewhere. And I don't even think she knew I was doing it like this today, because I normally don't do this on Thursdays until I get back to
Mm.
the studio, which I'll be back next week. I'm going to get my COVID test again this week, today, as a matter of fact. So once I test negative, I'll go into the studio. So I don't want to infect anybody. So I just kind of been playing it low, but the goal is to be back in the studio. So Lois, again, thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I will see you next Friday, live and in
Sounds great.
person.
Have
All
a great
right.
weekend.
All right. Bye
Bye.
bye. So listen, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thank you again for tuning in. Hope you got some great information out of that interview with Lois Kofi. I totally screwed her name up, said Coffee, but Kofi. Um, Thank you for listening. This was trust me, this is gonna be a regular every day. You're gonna see me every day. So that means I gotta be kind of looking decent every day. Starting probably next week once I go back into the studio. And we are live and in person. Listen, if you want to co-host one day with me, be sure to send me an email, Audrey at Good Morning Gwinnett, and put co-host in the tagline. If you want to co-host the show with me, do that. You got to get listen. I need you to be funny though. I'm looking for some comedians to co-host with me. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody to be funny because I like to laugh. So pick a day. Listen. Put co-host in the subject. Send me an email, Audrey at goodmorninggwinnett.com. Put co-host in the subject line, and I'll let you come into the studio and co-host me. But you need to be a comedian. I want somebody that's funny. Somebody that's gonna make me laugh the entire hour. So anyway, thank you again for listening, you guys. It's my Friday. I know today is Thursday, but it's my Friday. So I'll be back on Monday, 10 a.m. God willing. Until next time, everybody. Until next time, make it a great day now. Bye, y'all.